First line of defense. This opinion examines the erosion of Pakistan's foreign ministry as the nation's primary defense against external threats. If foreign policy is the country's first line of defense, it is disconcerting how successive governments have left the foreign ministry in an increasingly weakened state over the years. This opening sentence serves as the thesis statement by introducing the topic, the weakening of the foreign ministry, and establishing its critical importance to national defense. This has eroded the professional excellence once associated with it and driven morale to an all-time low. Eroded is a verb meaning gradually worn away. This sentence means that persistent neglect has diminished the ministry's formerly high standards and lowered staff morale. Pakistan's foreign service has long needed serious attention and reform to be able to adapt to global changes and leverage opportunities in a more multipolar world. This sentence means that the Foreign Service requires modernization to cope with today's complex global environment. Periodic review and reform are in any case required to make any institution fit for purpose. This sentence means that regular updates are essential for any organization to remain effective. Yet little effort has been made to reinvigorate, reboot, and strengthen the ministry. Reinvigorate means to give new energy to. Reboot means to restart. This sentence means that despite its importance, the ministry has not been properly updated or empowered. A major factor for its weakening in recent years has been greater encroachment on its domain by the military establishment. Encroachment is a noun meaning intrusion or takeover of an area. This sentence means that increased military influence has significantly undermined the ministry's authority. Governments, especially in the post-2018 hybrid civil-military arrangement, have not stood in the way of the foreign ministry, having to cede more and more ground to Rawalpindi. Post-2018, hybrid civil-military arrangement is a phrase referring to the joint control by civilian and military authorities after 2018. So, this sentence means that recent governments have allowed the military to take over more responsibilities traditionally managed by the foreign ministry. This has resulted in the ministry losing its centrality in the foreign policy-making process. This sentence means that the foreign ministry is now marginalized in setting national foreign policy. Some would argue this isn't new, as the military always had a decisive say in key policy areas such as India and Afghanistan. This sentence means that historically, the military has influenced policy on major issues. However, its role has now expanded further. To the extent that Pakistan's foreign policy has been security-oriented, the military has had a major voice in its formulation. This sentence means that when foreign policy is focused on security, the military naturally plays a dominant role. But in recent years, the military's role has extended beyond this, which has increasingly marginalized the foreign ministry in policymaking and management of diplomatic relations. This sentence means that the military now influences many areas of foreign policy, reducing the ministry's effectiveness. Today, the Foreign Service is also under pressure from officers of the Pakistan Administrative Service to give up posts in areas of responsibility relating to economic diplomacy on the ostensible grounds of efficiency. Ostensible is an adjective meaning apparent or claimed. This sentence means that bureaucratic officials are pushing the ministry to surrender economic roles under the guise of efficiency. Their assertion rests on the claim that they are better versed in economic and trade issues, even though they lack specialist skills and have little knowledge of international affairs or global markets. This sentence means that these officers argue they are more capable in economic matters, despite not having proper expertise in diplomacy. If this were to succeed, it would further whittle down the foreign ministry's role. Whittle down is a phrasal verb, meaning to gradually reduce. This sentence means that if economic diplomacy were transferred, the ministry's importance would decrease further. Another reason for the ministry's weakening over time is the lack of leadership by the head of the service, the Foreign Secretary. This sentence means that ineffective leadership from the Foreign Secretary has also contributed to the ministry's decline. Ministers have shown no interest in strengthening or reforming the Foreign Office as their priorities lie in the political arena. This sentence means that political leaders have neglected the ministry because they focus on other issues. But failure to do so by successive foreign secretaries has taken a heavy institutional toll. This sentence means that repeated poor leadership has seriously damaged the ministry's functioning. An unnecessarily timid and submissive attitude towards other stakeholders has defined the conduct of recent holders of this office, with few exceptions. Timid means lacking courage. Submissive means overly compliant. The sentence means that recent foreign secretaries have been overly cautious and deferential, which has weakened the ministry. Pakistan's foreign ministry needs reform to make it fit for purpose. The sentence means that significant changes are required to restore the ministry's effectiveness. This is a sorry departure from the past. This sentence means that the current state of the ministry is a disappointing contrast to its former strength. In the 1990s and 2000s, foreign secretaries did not shy away from standing up to a military ruler and giving policy recommendations to prime ministers, even when that did not accord with their views. This sentence means that in the past, the ministry's leadership was bold and independent in advising the government. The foreign secretary's fundamental responsibility is to fearlessly offer sound advice, resist flawed or whimsical decisions taken elsewhere, and defend policy determination by MOFOR. Here's MOFE stands for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. This sentence means that the head of the ministry should provide honest, expert guidance and uphold the ministry's role in policymaking. The foreign secretary must ensure promotions and postings are made on merit, not favoritism or political considerations. This sentence means that staffing decisions should be based on competence rather than connections or politics. Her job is also to foster a culture of open in-house discussion, not discourage independent, out-of-the-box thinking. Out-of-the-box thinking is an idiomatic expression meaning creative or unconventional ideas. This sentence means that the foreign secretary should encourage innovative dialogue within the ministry. The structural deficiencies in the foreign ministry's working methods, organization, and training of personnel need to be urgently fixed. This sentence means that deep-seated issues in how the ministry operates must be addressed immediately. The ministry still operates in silos and remains reactive rather than proactive. In silos is an idiomatic expression meaning isolated from other parts of the organization. This sentence means that the ministry's departments work independently and are slow to act. To make the ministry more relevant and help it regain lost ground, the quality of its policy inputs has to be improved. This sentence means that enhancing the ministry's analytical output is essential for restoring its influence. That will make it harder for other stakeholders to ignore its views and just dictate to it. This sentence means that stronger policy analysis will force other actors to take the ministry's recommendations seriously. Clear objectives and priorities should be set at the beginning of the year, with regular review and reassessment undertaken throughout the year. This sentence means that systematic planning and periodic evaluation are needed to improve the ministry's performance. The Policy Planning Division needs to be revitalized and placed at the core of the ministry's strategic functioning. This sentence means that reforming and empowering the Policy Planning Unit is critical for effective diplomacy. A complete overhaul of working methods should be undertaken to improve communication within headquarters, between divisions that often operate in silos, and with missions. This sentence means that modernizing internal processes and enhancing coordination are necessary steps for reform. The information flow is either too slow or absent, seriously handicapping mission work. This sentence means that poor communication impairs the effectiveness of diplomatic missions. Ambassadors can only be effective if they are kept regularly briefed. This sentence means that constant, timely information is essential for ambassadors to perform well. Sharing of timely information is impeded by a communication and feedback system that needs urgent modernization without compromising security. This sentence means that the current system for exchanging information is outdated and must be upgraded while maintaining confidentiality. It also needs a change in mindset from one that prizes monopolizing information over sharing it. Monopolizing is a verb meaning to control exclusively. This sentence means that the ministry should encourage open information sharing rather than hoarding knowledge. Of course, the ministry itself has to have access to information and be kept on board when policy decisions are taken elsewhere. This sentence means that the foreign ministry must be included in all key decision-making processes to remain effective. Major reform is also needed in several areas of training. This sentence means that comprehensive training improvements are required for the ministry staff. The generalized initial training has to be replaced by more specialized training in which practical aspects of diplomacy should be taught along with knowledge of foreign policy. Generalized means broad or unspecific. This sentence means that training should focus on practical, specialized skills rather than generic instruction. In other words, training modules should be focused on how to negotiate and communicate, as well as teach skills for public diplomacy, especially to deal with a complex media landscape modern tools every diplomat needs. This sentence means that training must include practical skills for negotiation, communication, and media engagement. This is important in a world in which multiple non-state actors shape a country's foreign policy outlook. This sentence means that today's complex international environment requires diplomats to be adept at handling diverse influences. Certainly, use of social media should be in the diplomat's toolkit, but as of now, the foreign ministry has yet to evolve any rules for its use. This sentence means that while social media is a vital tool, the ministry still lacks formal guidelines for its effective use. Diverse expertise is required on a complex array of global issues. This sentence means that modern diplomacy demands a wide range of specialized knowledge. Training should cater to these rather than be stuck in mental maps of the past. Mental maps is a metaphor referring to outdated ways of thinking. This sentence means that training programs must be updated to reflect current global realities. Foreign policy cannot be conducted on the cheap. This sentence means that effective diplomacy requires sufficient financial resources. This is why an adequately resourced ministry, having financial autonomy, is crucial to the performance of its core functions. This sentence means that the ministry must be properly funded and have the freedom to manage its finances. Pakistan's foreign ministry/missions are among the world's most under-resourced. This sentence means that compared to global standards, Pakistan's diplomatic missions receive insufficient funding. The ministry must have the means to adapt quickly to changing needs. This sentence means that flexibility and adequate resources are essential for modern diplomacy. For that, it needs greater financial authority within an enlarged budget. This sentence means that the ministry should be granted more financial power and a higher budget allocation. The numerical strength of the service also needs to expand, especially as the volume of work and complexity of international issues have increased, and so have avenues for diplomatic outreach. This sentence means that more diplomats are needed to handle the increased workload and complex global challenges. The financial burden on the exchequer can be offset by cutting down the support staff of a tail-heavy service. Tail-heavy is an idiomatic expression meaning disproportionately large support staff relative to the core team. This sentence means that reducing excess staffing could help manage costs while expanding the main service. These decisions are obviously for the government to take. This sentence means that policy decisions ultimately lie with the political leadership. But the foreign ministry can help itself by urging the prime minister to set up a task force to propose reforms. This sentence means that the ministry should proactively recommend reforms to the government. Until then, it should try to regain its influence by offering quality analysis and policy advice that can also persuade the military establishment to treat the ministry as the country's first line of defense. This sentence means that through robust analysis and effective policy recommendations, the ministry can reclaim its central role in national defense. The writer is a former ambassador to the US, UK, and UN. Published in Dawn, March 31, 2025.